What's up everybody, welcome back. Today I got a special video for you. Obviously we've been talking about the Nintendo Switch 2. It's right around the corner. I've shared my own personal preferences. I for one am not supporting Nintendo. I am not buying the Switch 2. Would I want to get the Switch? Of course, the new games look awesome, but what they're doing as a company, I for one just cannot support. Now, recently Nintendo, they went very sneaky and changed something a few days ago. This you can see here, effective date May 2025. Now, this is a long terms of agreement that everybody, I guarantee you, 99% of you go through this. You scrub all the way down and you click accept without thinking about it because you want to get to playing games. Like, you're not a lawyer, you're not going to sift through all this legalese and you're not going to understand some of their more complex terminology here. But there are a few pointers that you definitely need to know because what they're doing is pretty shady. Now, I went through this terms of agreement and I found a few things that I think everybody should be aware about. Okay, so let's get right into this. First, binding arbitration and class action waiver, all right? So what it says is you waive your right to sue Nintendo in court. You cannot join a class action lawsuit or have a jury trial. Most disputes must be resolved through individual arbitration. Now, what this means is they want you, if you have any kind of dispute, you're gonna have to pay out of pocket to hire your own lawyer. This severely limits your legal options if something goes wrong, all right? You can opt out of this within 30 days by sending a written notice, see section 16J. Second, user-generated content rights. This one, I guess it wouldn't bother me as much because there's so many other ones that are way worse than this one, but basically this one says you retain ownership of your content, but Nintendo gets perpetual worldwide royalty license to use, modify, and share it however they want, even for advertising purposes. And why does this matter? Well, they can monetize or use your own creations without paying or crediting you even after you stop using their service. Now, this is in perpetuity, which means forever. 3, termination at their own discretion. Now, here is where it gets very dicey. What it says, Nintendo can suspend or terminate your account at any time without notice, including for suspected violations. So they're not even saying actual violations, suspected violations. Now, that specific term is very broad and ambiguous. It's not very clear as to what this statement means. It can mean whatever. It can mean, oh, you know what? That guy, for some reason or another, we just feel like his account seems suspicious, so let's terminate it for no reason. And suddenly you lose access to all of your games, digital items, and your services with no warning or recourse. Now this if that doesn't freak you out, I don't know what will, because this terms of agreement is heavily benefiting Nintendo. Okay, and I get it. They're a huge conglomerate company with lawyers and they're a very litigious company. They seem like they get their game time in the courtroom. They really love to fight in court. So what is freaky is you can spend, how much was that console? Almost 800, 900 bucks after you buy a couple games and whatnot. And then, you know, 3 years down the line, you probably have invested what, $1,000, over $1,000 easy, $2,000 maybe. And out of nowhere, they can just terminate your account and you lose everything. And what are you gonna do? You're gonna sue them? You just say, it says right here, the binding arbiter, you cannot join a class action lawsuit, which means you're gonna have to go at it alone. Legal fees are insanely high, so that means you're just pretty much shit out of luck. All right, so let's keep going through this because this thing's just nuts. 4, digital items are not yours, all right? What it says, you're granted a limited, non-transferable license to digital items. You don't own them and you can't sell them, gift, or trade them outside of the platform. And why it matters, any purchases are at risk if Nintendo removes access or suspends your account or changes their own service. This is what I've been saying from the beginning, and again, we're gonna see the trickle down effect, just like I said earlier when I said, oh, the Mario Kart whatever is gonna be $80. Well, guess what? If people buy, you're gonna see other companies following suit. And what happened? Microsoft did the exact same thing. And with this, you're gonna see the same thing if it's not already there. I haven't gone through some of the other terms of agreements with the other companies, but Nintendo, they are really screwing their customers over. 5, service interruptions and no refunds. What it says, Nintendo is not responsible for loss, corruption, or removal of data, content, and offers no refund or compensation if that happens. So you can lose your games and your progress and have zero remedy, and Nintendo wouldn't do anything. They wouldn't lift a finger. Basically, again, you're screwed. Updates without notice, section 5, what it says, Nintendo can update or change features without notifying you and may disable access to services if you do not accept the updates. Features or content you rely on can disappear without warning. Alright, next up is number 7, the indemnification clause, section 14. What does it say? You may be required to cover Nintendo's legal costs if your use of the service causes them problems. That is insane. Why it matters, even if you're only partially responsible, suddenly not only are you paying Nintendo to play their games, but you might end up in a lawsuit of your own and you might have to pay their legal fees. If that doesn't freak you out, I mean, again, this whole thing is insane. Limited liability and no warranties. Nintendo disclaims all warranties and limits their ability to what you paid. What does that mean? If a service failure causes you damages, you may not be compensated even if it's their fault. And lastly, changes to terms without your approval. They can change the agreement at any time. If you continue using the service, you accept the new terms automatically. So if you don't even see certain things that they change and you just end up playing a game, suddenly you agreed to whatever those changes or new terms may be, like that. That is so frustrating. You have no control over how the terms evolve unless you stop using their service entirely, which we know you wouldn't, because why did you spend so much money in the first place to play their games? These are just small tidbits out of a much longer contract or terms of agreement. And the biggest thing that I got from all of this is it's basically saying you have no rights. You are giving us money as a renter, okay? You are renting everything. You don't own the content. When you purchase a game from Nintendo for $80 or whatever, how much it costs for digital content, you don't own it. You don't even own your system. Because if you do something that they deem is suspicious, quote unquote, they can brick your system that you paid for. Just let that sink in, okay? Imagine back in the day, you're playing your Xbox 360 and Microsoft suddenly goes, oh, you know, you did something in Call of Duty that we didn't like, that we deemed suspicious. You go ahead and try to turn on your console the next day and you get the red ring of death. You're like, what the hell, what happened to my console? And you find out that it was actually Microsoft themselves who bricked your console just because they felt like whatever you did was quote unquote suspicious. This is the exact reason why I did not want to support Nintendo, because this here shows their true colors. This doesn't mean that I don't like Nintendo games, because I understand there's fanboys out there that would protect Nintendo to their dying breath, which is ridiculous, but there's people out there like that. But please understand, I'm not saying I don't like Nintendo games. I love Nintendo games, but Nintendo as a company, they are downright ridiculous, and they are just so evil. And the more we allow, like, the more times people continue to pay and just open up their wallets when they raise the prices, you're just telling this company, hey, it's totally okay that you're bending us over backwards, whatever, keep doing whatever you want, we're gonna continue paying you guys and throwing money at you. And to them, that is, all right, that's the go sign for us. Let's continue twisting these people until they have nothing left. You have no rights, you don't own what you purchased, and basically you are just renting everything. And to me, it boggles my mind that there are people out there that are okay with this, that just, they don't think long term, like what this actually means. what this means to the gaming community as a whole, and how the trickle-down effect, like what I mean by trickle-down effect is Nintendo's at the top. They're doing this, and they're basically the lab rat for all these other big companies because they want to see what's safe. What are consumers okay with? Nintendo, when their pre-orders went live, it sold out instantly. Even with all of those ridiculous price hikes and everything, it just, people don't care. All people want, we just have this ridiculous consumer mindset. We just want that new shiny toy. Even though you can get the same experience from playing the previous Mario Kart. Okay, open world, whatever. There's certain other things but come on, let's be honest. Mario Kart is Mario Kart. When I play the Mario Kart on the Switch, and then I play the Mario Kart on N64, I get the same experience, okay? I get similar experiences, if not exact. The point that I'm trying to make here, you guys, is we have the power to stop this. If everybody came together and said, you know what, we're not going with this. This isn't cool. We're not going to spend money on this. Nintendo will freak out because all they care about is their bottom line, their shareholders, and they just want their company to continue seeing that profit margin grow and grow and grow. That's all they care about. So if profits start to diminish, guess what? They will change. They will have no choice. And that's the problem, is we're kind of like, it's just, there's this follower mentality, right? It's like mob mentality. Someone sees someone purchasing it, they get FOMO. Well, I also want to be able to get it so I can show my friends that I'm the one who has it. But at what cost? Well, I can tell you what cost. You don't own anything. You think you own this. You think your purchase is safe. Well, what happens when Nintendo finds your account as suspicious and they delete not even delete, they just break your system entirely and the account connected to it, and you lose everything that you've purchased? I don't know about you, but to me, that freaks me out. And that's why I tend to play most of my games on PC or my Steam Deck, because you have companies like GOG, Good Old Games, that have much better corporate practices than Nintendo. Steam, when you purchase a game, I feel like for the most part, you own it more so than what Nintendo is saying here. And if this is where we're headed, I mean, just being a gamer, it's just not going to make sense not to pirate games at a certain point, because, hey, at least when you pirate a game, guess what? You own it. I'm not saying you do that. Please don't, misunderstand me. I'm just saying, like, when you purchase something, that should be yours. And we are slowly moving into a world where everything that we purchase are no longer yours. And there's that quote, you're going to own nothing and you'll be happy. You'll be content. But that's not a world that I want to live in. And that is why I put my foot down, and I know I'm only one person, I know I can't make a difference, but at least one person, I'm not going to buy the next Nintendo Switch 2. Hopefully there are other people who share the same sentiment, and maybe, just maybe, if more people start to pull their head out of their you-know-what and start to realize like how screwed we are as a consumer, then maybe we might start to see some real positive change. But until then, until people can stop having this consumerist mindset where they're just consume, we need more, we need the next new thing. Like, how much do you really need? Go look at your backlog. How many games have you finished actually? How many games have you finished in the past 2 years? Think about it. Most people, they don't even finish their games. They just see the next new thing and then they just jump ship from the current game. And it's this continuous cycle, and it's never going to end. And I guess the only reason why I'm so frustrated is because this will affect me at a certain point. People who are saying that it's okay to let me buy a system, and then, yeah, totally, Nintendo, if you want to brick my system because you think what I'm doing is suspicious, sure, why not? And all the games that I actually purchased legally are now completely unplayable. I don't know. That's very frustrating. So this is just food for thought. It's I guess I'm just ranting here. I want to hear what you guys think, but are you guys getting the Nintendo Switch 2? I have a feeling most of you are going to say yes. I'm curious as to what you guys think about this whole thing. So let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.